Let's resume our discussion of a very fine novel by E.M.Forster, that is Passage to India. So far in the discussion, we saw the career of Foster. We saw originality, he is from England, and in the beginning, he had a misunderstanding regarding India and Indian people, right? So he had a negative view regarding Indians. But when he personally came to India, right, not for one time but two times, his misunderstanding regarding Indians was removed, and he started having positivity for Indians. Sorry, and we saw how the main issue in the present novel is imperialism and decolonization. We saw that, sorry again, the present novel has two classes of characters. One class is of English characters, that is British characters, and second group is of Indian characters. And as we know that the British came to India as the business purpose, but they became the rulers afterwards, and India became the colony. And we see this kind of imperialism over here, Samrajyavad it is called in Marathi, and decolonization. So India was a colony for the British Empire, and we saw a striking misunderstanding between the two mentalities, that is Indian and British, against each other. So clash regarding prejudices, clash regarding understanding, clash regarding cultures, right? Clash regarding attitudes, we can find in the present novel through the characters. And we started discussing the characters in that series. We discussed the character of Dr. Aziz, right? And we saw how Dr. Aziz represents a typical Indian mentality. As his name indicates, he is a Muslim doctor, right? He is quite intelligent, and we saw Dr. Aziz in the beginning has negative views regarding the British people. So he hated the British people. But on the other hand, he has the best friend who is also a British, that is Mr. Fielding. So he hates British people except Mr. Fielding, who is his best friend. And we saw when the two foreign ladies, Mrs. Adela and Mrs. Moore, when they come to India, they became good friend of Dr. Aziz, and Dr. Aziz treat them with respect. And Dr. Aziz tried to present India in front of those ladies. So Dr. Aziz became good friend of them. And later on, there is a misunderstanding. That's why he was taken into the police custody. And we will see that custody, that case later on. Right. So this is Dr. Aziz we saw yesterday. We saw this character also, that Mrs. Moore, a senior British lady who come to India to see India and to understand Indian people. She is interested in Indian culture also. She wanted to travel in India, and she is open-minded, and she has no negativity regarding Indians. And Mrs. Moore has a son, and her son is what? What is the name of Mrs. Moore's son?
Ronnie.
Ronnie. So Mrs. Moore has just only one son, Ronnie, and Ronnie is a British officer who works in India. So Mrs. Moore has two reasons to visit India. One is to see India, and the second is to meet her only son, Ronnie, who is in India, right? So Mrs. Moore is very open-minded, and she becomes a good friend of Dr. Aziz. When Dr. Aziz is charged of attempt of rape, it is Mrs. Moore who takes the side of Dr. Aziz. So we can say that Mrs. Moore strongly believes in people, strongly believes in friendship. Right. So this is Mrs. Moore. And Mrs. Moore, as I told you, that she has one son, that is Ronnie, and Ronnie is engaged with Adela. So Adela is the next character. She is young, she is beautiful, and she is engaged to Ronnie Heslop. Again, I repeat that Ronnie is the son of, yes,
Mrs. Moore.
Mrs. Moore. Okay. मिसेस मूरचा मुलगा कोण आहे तर रॉनी आहे.
Ronnie.
ठीक आहे, हा रॉनी. ठीक आहे, रॉनीचा साखरपुडा कोणासोबत झालाय तर ऍडेला. ऍडेला आणि मिसेस मूर ह्या कोण होणार आहेत तर त्यांच्या सासू सुना. गॉट इट. So Adela comes with Mrs. Moore to India with the same reason. She wanted to meet her would-be husband Ronnie, and she also wanted to see India and Indian people. But in the beginning, Adela has negativity regarding Indian people, right? And Adela and Mrs. Moore, as we discussed, they become a good friend of Dr. Aziz. And Dr. Aziz takes both ladies to Malabar Caves, Malabar Hill, right? And there is a misunderstanding between Adela and Dr. Aziz, and Adela wrongly accuses Dr. Aziz of attempt to rape her. Right. Later on, we would see in the story. Right. So this is Adela quested, and in the course of the time, she feels that she does not love Ronnie. She does not love Ronnie. Right. So what happens next, we would see in the main story. Right. Is it clear now? Okay. Let's move towards the next character, that is Ronnie, a totally opposite character to Dr. Aziz and both the ladies, that is Adela and Mrs. Moore. Ronnie Hislop is a very rude person. Right, as I told you that Ronnie is the son of Mrs. Moore, and he is a British officer, and he serves in India. But the attitude of Ronnie Hislop towards Indian is totally negative. He hates Indians. And whenever Ronnie gets a chance to insult an Indian, right, he grabs it. Right? He wanted to crush Indians. He wanted to torture Indians. And he hates Indians very much. That's it. And when Ronnie learns that his mother, that is Mrs. Moore, and his would-be wife, that is Adela, has a friendship with an Indian, that is Dr. Aziz, Ronnie becomes very angry because he does not like that a British should have friendship with an Indian. That's it. So we can say that Ronnie is very rude and confusing character. We can call him as an antagonist over here. And he is a city magistrate, right? So he is a city magistrate over there. So this is Ronnie. And Ronnie tries to torture most of the characters in the story. Right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
This is Ronnie. This is Mr. Fielding, Cyril Fielding. And let's have the introduction of this character. As the name indicates, he is a British. He is a headmaster at some local college and the best friend of Dr. Aziz. See, Dr. Aziz hates the British, except Cyril Fielding. Right. So Cyril Fielding is the only British character to whom Dr. Aziz loves. And as the behavior of Cyril Fielding is concerned, he is a very pleasant character, right? And he is having modern type of thinking, and he advocates, he believes in friendship between Indians and the British. So his mind is open, and he welcomes if there is a friendship between a British and an Indian. He supports such kind of friendship, and he believes that such kind of friendship between British and Indians can clear the misunderstanding, right? So such kind of friendship should be developed according to Cyril Fielding. And as I told you that he is free from prejudice. Prejudice, Purvagraha Dushit, we call it in Marathi, and generalization towards Indians. Maintains a healthy relation with all Indians around him. And whenever Cyril Fielding happens to meet some Indians, he is very happy. His behavior towards Indians is very friendly. And later on, he marries Stella, Mrs. Moore's daughter, in the end. Stella is the second daughter of Mrs. Moore, right? And he married Stella over there. So Fielding prefers individual and personal relationships to institutional ones that are patronizing, containing both positive and negative characters. Fielding represents a stance of Forster in the context of the novel. Stance. Here, stance means thinking, attitude. Stance of Forster. According to Forster, the novel is that Indians and British people should have a friendly relationship. And the same view is shared by Cyril Fielding. So we can find similarity of attitudes regarding Indo and British relationship in the case of the novelist and Cyril Fielding. So this is a Cyril Fielding. Next character is Professor Godbole. As the name indicates, he is an Indian character, Indian Brahmin character. And Godbole is a Hindu philosopher. He is the most charming and mysterious character of the novel. Godbole is deeply thoughtful and wise. He is engaged in thinking and thinking all the time. He is aware of the universal mystery. Sometimes he is able to foresee future events. Foresee means to see future in advance. भविष्य बघणे, we call it. तर भविष्य सुद्धा तो बघतो एक प्रकारे. He believes in love amongst people. So like Fielding, he also supports the relationship between the British and the Indians. And he supports relationship. He believes in love among the people and in respect for nature and life as well. And Godbole, Dr. Aziz, and Mr. Fielding, right? These three are good friends of one another. I repeat, Godbole, Mr. Fielding, and Dr. Aziz. They three are good friends of one another. See, Fielding is British, Dr. Aziz and Godbole, they are Indians, right? And three of them believe that we should have friendship. But on the other hand, Dr. Aziz strongly believes that if the British treats Indian with respect, then and then such kind of relationship is possible, right? So, in other words, Dr. Aziz hates the British because the Indians are insulted by the British people. And Dr. Aziz advocates, is of the opinion that if the British treats Indian with respect, then and then such kind of relationship, such kind of friendship is welcomed, right? and Godbole is having the same view. So when Dr. Aziz becomes friends of two ladies, that is Adela and Moore, right? Professor Godbole also has a friendship with the two ladies, including Fielding also. So Godbole, Fielding, and Dr. Aziz, they become friends of the two British ladies, that is Mrs. Adela and Mrs. Moore, right? See, Professor Godbole, right? So these are the main characters. Okay, let's go towards the settings. So the majority of the novel is set in Chandrapur, a place in South India, but the end it is also set in Mau. Okay, Mau is a place. It is divided into three parts, and each name depends on the place where the most important events happens. So the story of the novel has been divided into three parts, and these three parts have different names. See, the first part is called mosque. Mosque means masjid. Okay. So the part mosque is the beginning of the story, right? The second part has the title that is caves. So caves can be called as the middle of the story, right? And the ending has a part, and it has been named as, yes, temple, right? So these three parts means the story of the present novel, and most of the incidents happen at two places. One place is Chandrapur and second is Mau. And one more important place is there, that is Marabar Caves. These Marabar Caves are near to Chandrapur city. Caves, as I told you, caves means Gufa Kibal Lenia. Okay, so Marabar Caves are there near Chandrapur city, right? So these three places are very important. One is Chandrapur, second is Marabar Caves, and third is Mau, right? So these are the settings of the present. So let's move towards the themes, main issues in the present novel. The first thing is imperialism, right? It is called Samrajyavad in Marathi. So the present novel indicates imperialism, Samrajyavad, imperialism of the British people. As I told you that the British came to India for business purpose, but later on they become the rulers over here, and they transferred India into a colony of British Empire, right? And the British people started exploiting Indians. The British started, what you say, insulting the Indians. The British started looting money from Indians, and all that money was carried away to England, right? So the total money of India was transferred to England, and India became a poor country, right? So under British rule, the Indians received insult and tortures, and this issue is highlighted in the present novel. So the novelist indirectly indicates that because of this cruel treatment, because of this insult, because of these tortures, the relationship between the British and the Indians were not good, right? So through the characters in the present novel, the novelist indicates that a proper treatment should be given to the Indians by the British. And then the friendship between India and England is possible. So this attitude is highlighted in the present novel, that is called imperialism, right? So no tortures to Indians by the British is the view of the novelist. This is the first issue in the present novel. The second is race. It is called Vansh in Marathi. So British have separate race, Indians have separate race, right? So the British considered themselves as superior to Indians. According to the British, the Indians are like animals. They are uncivilized. They are wild. ब्रिटिशांच्या मते भारतीय लोक कसे आहेत तर रानटी आहेत, जंगली आहेत, जनावर आहेत. And who are superior? The British. And this kind of superiority feeling is there in British officers. And our character, that is Ronnie, is the example of this superiority complex. And because of this superiority complex, they consider Indians as their slaves. Right? Slaves म्हणजे काय? गुलाम. ब्रिटिशांच्या मते भारतीय हे कोण आहेत तर ब्रिटिशांचे गुलाम आहेत. राईट? आणि भारतीय लोक कसे आहेत तर रानटी आहेत, त्यांना कोणतेही संस्कार नाहीत, अनसिव्हिलाइज्ड, राईट? आणि ते आपले कोण आहेत? गुलाम आहेत. So this kind of race issue is there, and because of this race issue, there is no healthy relationship between British and the Indians, right? And because of this race, Dr. Aziz hates the British people, right? And because of this race issue, the British don't treat Indians with respect, right? That is the thing highlighted in the present novel. So women, right? So women's side has been taken by the novelist. We saw two main characters, women characters over here, that is Adela and Mrs. Moore. So no freedom has been given to the women, even though they are from a modern country, that is England. So both the women are exploited by their own British people, right? And Indians supported these two women characters, that is Adela and Mrs. Moore, right? So Aziz, Godbole, Fielding, they supported the women characters, but on the other hand, Ronnie and the British group in the story, they exploited the women characters, and this would be elaborated in our later lectures, right? Love and friendship. As I told you earlier, that the main issue in the present novel is love and friendship, right? So friendship between Indians and British, this is the main issue, and love also. So we can guess that Adela started loving Dr. Aziz, right? And why she started Dr. Aziz, we would see later in the story. So love, that we can say that incomplete love is there in the present story. So indication is there that is Adela started loving Dr. Aziz, and friendship also, as the friendship between the British characters and Indian characters. So this friendship should have respect for each other. Here each other means British and the Indian characters. So this issue is highlighted through the characters. And the next thing is there, that is religion and nature. So three religions have been indicated over here. One religion is Muslim, indicated through Dr. Aziz. Second religion is Christian, indicated by the British characters. And the third religion is Hindu religion, indicated through Professor Godbole. So comparison is there in the story regarding the three different what you say religions. See, the first part of the novel is entitled as mosque, right? And the last is entitled as temple. So we can see there is a comparison and contrast among the three religions, that is Hindu, then Christian, and then uh, Muslim community, right? Later on we would see in the story, right? So these are the main issues over here, okay?